That brings me, I guess, to the question of when you decide something is culturally important enough to put into a puzzle, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Housewives is important now.
Yep.
Can you recall the first time Housewives became a reference in the crossword?
It's a really good question. I mean, one thing that must have happened is that NENE, right? Which
Yeah.
is almost
Nene.
always, yeah. And for years that was clued by way of, I think it's a Hawaiian bird,
Hmm.
right? And or there was a basketball player, Nene Hilario, right? So what happened, you can track when the Times gets comfortable shifting the point of reference. I mean, this is an old thing. I mean, Oreo was clued for, 60 years or so as a Greek prefix that means mountainous. It's like, what? Nobody knows that.
Yeah.
And it's not until Will Shortz takes over in 1993 that you can clue as the cookie, finally, right?
When's it going to be a white acting black person?
Well, that's the thing. Probably, there have been puzzles, not in the New York Times, that have used that reference.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. Some people actually don't like putting Oreo in the puzzle because, in some context, it's a slur.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure. Maybe in middle school.
Yeah. Right.
It's a slur, but you must have that. You must have that problem a lot with a lot of words.
Yes. I mean, there's a huge movement to sort of adopt like a do no harm ethic for the puzzle. I mean, this came out of what was going on in like the 2010s, where reacting to the fact that there weren't a lot of pop cultural references. That whenever cultural references came in, they were often included in the most mainstream way possible. Or that one of the things that happened is whenever Elsa was clued before Frozen came out, it would be like Albert Einstein's second wife. It's like, come on, there are famous women named Elsa. We can do that instead.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a huge movement to make the puzzle less sexist, right? Less racist, more inclusive. Like more interesting puzzle is one that has references from lots and lots of different cultural touchstones. I mean, critics are often crossword constructors. Right? I mentioned Cam Collins, but there are lots of people who love, a puzzle that feels like a full meal, like a puzzle that has, one of Cam's first puzzles had Arcade Fire stacked on top of Martin Amis, right? Like that's a fun duo, JavaScript next to the Dakar rally, pulling from lots of different parts of culture as if to kind of construct a world, right? Like this is my cultural network. And there are all these fun nodes that I think you should learn about. So yeah, I mean, there's a huge movement to make the puzzle less messed up and more ranging, which I think has just been for the better.
Well, do you feel like that is something that's easier to accomplish now? Just because, I mean, think of culture in general. You have, when you're looking at maybe your feed on the internet, you can see someone talking about politics, and then you can see someone talking about books and talking about Real Housewives and podcasts now, and cultural critics, like they will write about books, but you'll also have like Roxane Gay writing about Vanderpump Rules. Do you think that people's cultural diets have changed where they're consuming everything, so it would feel weird to not include current pop culture, even though it might piss off some older people in the comments?
Totally.
But are those older people even in the comments?
Well, they're in the comments, but they're allowed
from Facebook.
They're a loud minority. Exactly. They're on Facebook. Yeah. They're texting their sons to be like, can you log me in so I can come for this Tuesday puzzle? Yeah, no, it is like that. I mean, one of the things that happened kind of beautifully in a dark time was during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of people started solving more puzzles.
Yeah.
This was the ramp up of the Times. They buy Wordle in 2021, and all of a sudden everyone has access to all these games and is starting to develop opinions about these games. And, the journalist Oliver Rudder has a line that, in March 2020, perhaps at no other time were more games being played in human history. This was the pinnacle of game playing. We were at home. We, needed something to combat the grayness of lockdown, the social separation of lockdown. So people turned to games. And I think
I turned to drinking.
I mean, I did both. Yeah, it's definitely why not both situations. Yeah, totally. I think my streak increased and my waistline increased. Right, like that's what happened. And one thing that happened is that people who had thought of themselves as puzzle hobbyists, people who love pop culture, who felt like the puzzle really wasn't for them, started to try their hand at making puzzles. So exactly to your point, there's like a new archipelago of these new outlets. Puzzmo, Apple has a puzzle. The New Yorker crossword is getting bigger and bigger. There are these alternatives to the times. The Vulture crossword. These promise a more ranging cultural diet, but also they're coming from new voices that provide their own, diaristic understanding of what is fun. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay. If the New York Times and like the oh, sorry. That's actually for you.
All right. Hello?
Hi, Natan. It's Doe. It's funny because this is the sort of thing I would text you about, but we can do this in a public forum, which is even better. I'm wondering if you saw Joyce Carol Oates's missive, in which she says, in response to being a very frequent answer to crossword puzzles, she says this: "Truly, I don't mean to be annoying, but who on earth has time for crossword puzzles, and why? I did enjoy crossword puzzles in Playmate magazine long ago as a child, but since then, no. However, it is probably flattering to be of value because of the vowels in my name." Trying to see that perspective. So, really funny. But I was wondering if you could tell us where this attitude is coming from, of people being really curmudgeonly towards the crossword puzzle. Thank you. Bye.
That's amazing.
You know what? Every time I kind of forget that there's a phone there.
I've been thinking about this for so many days. So
Okay.
Doreen mentioned that Joyce Carol Oates. I mean, Joyce Carol Oates is the top poster, maybe the top poster.
Honestly, she's had a transformation, because don't you remember when I feel like we were all sick of Joyce Carol Oates' tweets?
Yeah.
Years ago. Some of them were kind of crazy. And now, I kind of love them.
All hits.
Yeah.
And she's kind of the inverse Helen DeWitt of the last couple. I mean, I feel like when the old literary titanesses take to Twitter, it's usually going to be fun.
Yeah.
Good fun or bad fun, but it's going to be fun. Yeah, no, Joyce Carol Oates, I mean, it's so funny. Her line is, who has time for crosswords?
She has time.
She has time.
She needs to brick her phone. She is on Twitter all day.
Yeah, she's posting.
The most time of any author.
The most time. Responding, her replies are robust. She definitely takes the time to figure out what she wants to say. Yeah, I mean, I think the big question here is, who has time for literature, right? This is something that, the crosswords history is a history of, when it comes out in the jazz age, people saying, this is intellectual, but it's also leisure time. It's frivolous, but it also canonizes the important names of the day. And then it's ephemeral, I throw it out. It appears in the newspaper, but it's separate from the newspaper. And so the puzzle just has inherently this question about, are you a time waster, or are you improving my mind? Are you giving me a world by, slicing a part of pop culture for me to consume? Or are you quizzing me in an annoying way? And, I think people have time for puzzles because they constantly give you that back and forth of, I feel like I'm getting smarter. I also feel like I'm, letting myself waste in a productive way a couple of minutes of my day, right? Wordle doesn't have to be good for you to do it. And then there's a whole other thing here, which is the kind of manufactured addictiveness of these games, right? So who has time for, crosswords? Well, apparently the, millions and millions of people who now spend more time on the Times Games app than the news feature, right? I mean, this is big business. So everyone's got time for it. This is the thing.